Hi guys and welcome to another vlog. This is the 2020 Tata Harrier which is priced from rupees 16.78 lakhs and this particular variant costs rupees 24.5 lakhs on road Mumbai.
I hate when I bring you down so low, and I can't change it, fake it. God knows I get so hard to love, and I can't change it, fake it. God knows I get so hard to love.
As you can see, it looks very much similar to the earlier model. Only thing is it gets this new red color which actually looks quite nice. Straight away opening the engine bay and it says Cryotech 170 because this is an updated diesel engine with more power. Anyways, you've got insulation right there. Engine bay is quite compact and that's surprising. Anyways, the design of the car remains more or less the same as before, but minor changes have been done. Now you can notice the LED DRL is on the top, the main lights are below, but the DRL also turns into the indicator. So here is of course the LED DRL, and if the indicator is turned on, well, the LED DRL shuts off. Of course, it looks really very nice. The only issue here is that the main lights are not LEDs. Okay, this is actually the high beam. This is a projector setup for the low beam. It's an HID, high intensity discharge xenon lamp. This is the fog lamp and it gets the cornering function too. Car looks really nice. I love the chrome treatment. Actually, this is replicated on the dashboard as well. And there are no front parking sensors. There's no front parking camera either. However, the lower part of the bumper is actually finished in black. That's cost cutting or to reduce the overall visual bulk of the car. Well, that's for you to decide. Now, the overall design remains the same. So I don't have much to talk about other than the fact that it finally gets appealing looking alloy wheels. Now, these get the diamond cut treatment and the size of the tires happens to be 235, 65, 17. Just look at the size, sidewall size. It is massive. Although this car really deserves bigger wheels, definitely. But since the ride quality is brilliant, I'm not going to nitpick much on that. You see this body cladding running all over the car and you've got this chrome treatment on the side as well. The mirrors are now smaller, more aerodynamic and reduce the overall blind spot which was there earlier. You obviously get the indicators on the mirror as well. In terms of the design, well, it kind of gives you the Land Rover vibes for sure. There are no rear discs on offer, which is very disappointing at this price point. Coming to the rear, this will actually remind you of the Velar, and I have to again nitpick that the exhausts are unfortunately fake on this car. Yeah, that's right, fake exhaust. Why is everyone doing fake exhaust? What's wrong with you? Reflector. This is the rear fog light. The lights look really nice, amazing looking lights, but this is not an LED, the indicator. The brake light is actually LED. You get this piano black finish which runs continuously to the other light as well. Yeah, you see, doesn't look that premium having bulbs at this price point. Meanwhile, the real exhaust happens to be somewhere here. Yeah, that is the exhaust of the car, and the spare wheel is not an alloy. It's actually a smaller size spare wheel, 16 incher, which is placed here below the body of the car. Little difficult to access without a doubt. You got a spoiler. You have also got a shark fin antenna, and because it's going to be raining, it's actually started pouring badly. So we're going to get inside the car real quickly. Says Harrier right there with this chrome treatment. Looks very nice and premium. Let's open the boot of the car right away, and it is actually smaller than the Hyundai Creta. This is 425 liters. The Creta's boot is 433 liters, but the shape of the boot is so nicely done. You don't feel that it's a small boot. The only thing is that the loading lip is on the higher side. There is a hook here which can hold 2 kgs. Yeah, that's right, up to 2 kgs it can hold because it's written right there 2 kgs. And you see, the boot is not that big, right? However, below here there is storage space. Yep. There's decent amount of storage here as well, so you can keep some amount of stuff below too. So it's actually bigger than a 425 liter boot. And here is obviously the jack, not from Titanic, and here is where you fill the AdBlue. Yeah, that's about it. Well, they've actually managed the boot quite well. Looks really nice. There's a subwoofer of the car. It gets a subwoofer. It actually gets 9 speakers. We're going to talk about it in a bit. You have to take effort to close the boot. Not really. It's actually quite light. I expected it to be heavier. Rear parking sensors, black color finishing on the lower half of the bumper. Actually, the bumper is only finished in black. You've got this sort of a treatment just about hiding the spare wheel as such. Says Harrier boldly at the rear. Again, you can say that is Land Rover influence. And there is a reverse parking camera which kind of sticks out somehow. That's the number plate light as well. But these fake exhausts are so bad, they should not be there at all. Let's get inside to the rear. First and foremost, let me tell you that space in this car is absolutely brilliant. Okay, there's good amount of space on offer. There's so much space on offer. That's crazy. In fact, you can recline the seat if you want to. Here it has a 60-40 split to increase the boot carrying capacity massively. You can actually carry your house if you feel like. Now I love the way they have done the door pockets because they are big enough. You can obviously keep stuff here like a bottle. It gives you the bottle logo too, just to remind you only bottle should be kept, nothing else. And there's another compartment here so you can keep even more stuff. Leather finishing really feels nice. I mean, the way they've done it on the door pads with leather, super duper awesome, super duper nice. But hard plastics of course on the top. And this is obviously the tweeter. This is the speaker. Floor is not completely flat. There is a small hump here in the center. Rear AC vents are not placed here, but there is storage space. You can easily keep your phone if you feel like. And charging port, where is the charging port? Yeah, it is actually lower down here. Not the easiest to access. That's a USB charging port. When you close the door, you realize that it shuts with a nice premium appeal. Not the third, but that softness and smoothness. There's a light placement right there. There's a handle along with a hook. Same is the case here as well. Turn off the lights, press this button. Well, right now, obviously, I have turned on the lights from the front itself. Meanwhile, airbags are 6 in this car, 6 airbags. Scooped out seat back, magazine holders on both the sides, but the leg room and knee room is so good. It's massive. Under thigh support is also really nice. Headroom is plenty. Not really. My cap is almost touching, but it's not touching actually. But because of the sunroof, obviously, it eats into the headroom of the car. However, I don't have much to complain about because this gets a massive panoramic sunroof. And Tata claims it is the biggest sunroof in the segment. Okay, you can adjust the driver's lumbar from here. Yeah, lumbar support can be adjusted from here. That's again a very cool thing. Although it should have been electrically operated, considering the seat itself is electrically operated. The cabin is really wide. 3 people can comfortably sit in. If they can manage this, of course, the middle passenger though. The middle passenger is always the sad person in the car, unfortunately. Center armrest has twin cup holders. There is no headrest for the center passenger, unfortunately, again. But the other headrests are adjustable. Parcel shelf is really very big. You can keep a lot of stuff here as well. The dashboard looks really very nice. Look at the car. It's so wide. It's so wide. I mean, it's unbelievably wide. Gives you the big car feeling for sure. Let's get out of here for a moment. I love the door handles also. Very premium. The car has some really good bits. AC vents are placed here on the B pillar and they do a decent job of cooling the rear. However, the seat belts are not height adjustable, which is a glaring omission. Even a project car Maruti Baleno has adjustable seat belt height. That is from 2006 or 2001 actually, when the car was launched. That's absolutely crazy. Yeah, it gets a dual tone treatment. A lot of chrome. Look at the chrome. It's running all over the place. Although this could have been aligned with the front door properly, so that little bit alignment is missing. Request sensor is on both the sides. That's a good thing. Unlike Hyundai Kia cars, and you get the chrome treatment on the doors. That also gives you some sort of premium appeal. They have put a lot of chrome on this car, which actually looks good because yes, this Harrier has a lot of road presence. It feels like a mini Land Rover without a freaking doubt. Now, why am I coming to the rear? Because I want to show you this. Okay, can you see this? Yep. Yeah, the Make in India logo or something of that sort. Actually, I'm not too sure. Okay, I did not close the boot properly. That's the reason why the light was blinking. Now that is closed, look at the rear of the car. Doesn't it remind you of Land Rover? Now I hate this. I just absolutely hate this. They could have got a better warning chime, because every time you have the key in your pocket and the car is open, or even if the key is inside the car and the car's door is open, it irritates you by ringing like beep, 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 beep. Why do you ring the horn? You shouldn't be doing that. When you open this, just a press of a button. It says diesel only. Of course, it's a diesel car. There is no petrol model on offer at all. And you have to actually press this button to unlock the car. It doesn't have that Honda thing. You just put your hand inside and it unlocks automatically. No. That doesn't happen. Door pockets are big enough at the front as well. There's an umbrella holder here. We'll do the umbrella test. And there is a bottle holder. It obviously has the bottle logo, just in case to remind you that not to put anything else other than a bottle. Okay, there is an umbrella holder. You can keep an umbrella, which is a nice touch. However, that is only for smaller umbrellas, like I will show you right now with the Faisal Khan umbrella of truth. So I'm going to try and slide this in. It's not going to fit because it is, yeah. Now once I do this, I cannot close it. My umbrella will break, and I have invested a lot of money, full 200 rupees to get this umbrella. So that's not happening for sure. Yeah, the umbrella holder is for small umbrellas, although I'm just nitpicking, but it's actually a good thing. Usually most of us have a small umbrella. I have a big umbrella for reasons best known to me. Maybe it was cheaper, that's why I bought it, but still. Now another problem I have with this car is that only the driver's side power window auto rolls down. It doesn't auto roll up. No other power window in this car has a one touch up down, which is unfortunate at this price point. The Volkswagen Polo, which costs like 8 lakh rupees, has this feature. It should be there in this car as well. You see, hard plastics are on the top, but there's this soft touch material and this beautiful treatment as well, sort of chromish I would say. And of course the door handles also feel really nice. This is obviously the control for the outside rear view mirror adjustment, and these are the power window controls. The switchgear seems a little basic to me. Anyways, the driver's seat, look at it. It gets an electric adjust. It's a 6-way electric adjust driver's seat. The seat itself is extremely comfortable with an overload of lumbar support, which is actually a good thing for people who like that kind of stuff. However, it's not going to suit everybody. That said, you see there is a dead pedal right there. Yeah, there is the dead pedal, and this is obviously to open the hood of the car. This is the engine start button, sort of a dummy button. I think lower variants do not get that option of press button start, push button start, whatever you want to call it. Seats are comfy all around the car, which is a good thing. And even the treatment on the seat, look at this treatment. This leather is so beautiful, seems very nice. Has this airbag stickering, just to tell you that yeah, it has airbags. Do not fiddle with it, drive safely. Just kidding, let's get inside. So the dashboard is so nice that I have to actually stretch behind to show you how wide it is. It is massively wide, and it has this continuous line running, which is very much Jaguar Land Rover inspired. You obviously see it on the Tata Tiago as well. Now I'll take the liberty of turning off the indicator because I just wanted to show you something. That's the reason why it was on. Now there is a light placement here. It's quite easy, just press it like this, it's shut. Now if I open the door, yeah, it actually shows you which door is exactly open. That's also a nice touch. Now the dashboard design is really nice, and you would believe there would be hard plastics, but no, this is soft touch material. Feels super duper premium. Yeah, I'm unbelievably shocked that they've put soft touch on the dashboard. That's the reason why this car comes across as so premium. But this is not real wood. This is obviously fake wood, but it's so convincing you won't think it's fake wood. Yeah, the only thing is this is form over function. I'll tell you why. It looks very nice for sure, but your leg scrubs against it. And although on the left side of your knee you have this nice comfort because of leather, on the top you actually scrub it against this panel, which is kind of irritating because they should have thought about the ergonomics better, and this is not the best way of doing it. Anyways, the glove box is massive in terms of size. It's so big, that's what she said. It is really big. It has a compartment up top as well and has a nice light too. So the glove box can actually hide the spare wheel if you want to do that. I'm just kidding, that's not possible. I was actually hunting below to see if there is storage space here, because that's the case with some of the Tata cars. Anyways, quality levels are really nice. I'm surprised that Tata Motors has done such a brilliant job in terms of quality. Obviously, quality levels have improved. Fit finish levels have also improved in this car. It feels super duper well put together. In fact, attention detail is so cool. Look at this. Okay, is this part of the package or I am hallucinating? Probably I am. There is no mirror on this side. Why? Why doesn't the driver deserve to see his face? Or maybe the chauffeur is going to be driving this car. There is no light here. There is no toll receipt holder. None of that sort. However, there is a very premium one on the left side. Twin lights and a mirror. Just cut this mirror into half. Remove one light. Put it on the driver's side. Both of us deserve to see our faces. There's a handle here. There's no hook there. And there is no handle or hook on this side, of course. Airbag warning written right there. Now the dashboard looks really nice, but let's turn on the vehicle, and there you see it does a full swipe up for the speedometer. It also does a full swipe up for the tachometer too, which is amazing because of course you've got a 7-inch display on the left side for the tachometer as well as the multi-information display, and this happens to be completely digital. Meanwhile, the speedometer is the only analog part of this instrument cluster. Now the good thing here is the fact that this is very loaded indeed. This multi-information display, you see a lot of things. Now obviously it's telling you the fuel level here. It's also telling you the fuel level like a bucket in the center. And this is obviously the temperature meter. This is the odometer, telltale lights everywhere. In fact, let me turn off the car's lights and let's browse through this infotainment system. So it's telling you instant fuel economy. It's telling you what is the real-time fuel economy, 9.9 kilometers per liter, not bad. It's also telling you travel time and what is your average speed. The twin trip meters, trip A and trip B. This is very cool. It's a power and torque meter, which actually reminds me of the Maruti Baleno, the new one. So here, when I get into the gas, yeah, the car is vocal, but this also works really nicely. It's just a gimmicky thing. Now, of course, I can get into the settings, and here I can actually decide how I want the illumination of this cluster. So I can decide if I want to reduce the brightness. That also is possible once you get into the settings. There's also information for service reminder. So this is a very loaded console without a doubt. In fact, this is a gear position indicator, and it is telling you what drive mode you are in right now. So it's in city drive mode, that's why it's telling city. But every time I change the drive mode, let's actually get into the terrain modes here.
Wet mode activated.
Here.
Rough road mode activated.
So it actually tells you which mode you're shifting into. Again, normal drive mode.
Sport drive mode activated.
However, for the sport drive modes and the regular drive modes, it actually just shows you here. It doesn't have a display in the center. Now this display is very nice because you know what it does when it turns on the automatic headlights. It shows you there. It says automatic headlights activated, something of that sort. So lot of information. In fact, it's got some crazy voice commands. Yeah, it will remind you if not worn a seatbelt too, and that happens so fluidly with a warning from this lady who's sitting inside the car.
Fasten driver seat belt.
So that warning is there too. It gives you plenty of warnings, which is actually a good thing. And it also shows it on the right side that you haven't fastened your seatbelt. And on the top, it also tells you your source of audio along with which channel you're playing for the radio or which song you're playing from your phone. Exact song name also comes here. This is the outside temperature. This is the current time. All this information from this cluster, really very slickly done. The steering wheel feels nice to hold. These are actually the buttons for the cruise control. These are the buttons for operating the multi-information display. Yes, that's right. These are the buttons. Meanwhile, on this side, on the left side, you've got controls for the volume. This is to go forward track, behind track, rather previous track. This is for changing the mode of the audio source. This is to pick up a call and also for voice command. This is for declining a call and also to mute. So let's use the voice commands right away.
Please say the command after the beep.
Play radio.
Playing from tuner.
So yeah, that also works pretty nicely. I like it. Here are the controls for the audio system. So you have physical controls as well. This is obviously for the volume and this is to browse ahead or behind. So I can actually browse like this for every menu. Okay, let's just get into home for a moment. AC vents can be closed. So you can close the AC vents by pushing them to one side. You see AC vents are now closed. This is for both the center as well as the side AC vents. And you see this treatment is really nice and premium on the AC vents. See JBL speakers there. That is actually the tweeter. This is the speaker. 4 speakers, 4 tweeters, 1 subwoofer, 1 amplifier and 320 watts of output. Audio quality is quite impressive actually. These are the controls for the air conditioning. It gets an automatic climate control air conditioning system and the display comes here. So yeah, you press something here and it shows on the screen itself. Now the screen is a bit small because it is an 8.8 inch screen. It's not the most fluid in terms of usage. It could have been bigger in terms of size without a doubt, and it has something known as themes. So you can choose multiple themes. It's saying Zen right now. I'm going to move it a little bit here so that you can see when I change it. There is Zing, which is having a red theme. There is Zeal, which is having like sort of a purplish theme, and then you can also decide sort of colors. I think with the theme, not only does it set the color that is for this thing and this thing, rather the infotainment system and the instrument cluster, it also sets the climate as per what has been pre-fed and also the kind of audio output. So you can obviously change the settings for the audio output. That is also pre-programmed in the theme itself, which you can see here. Sound, rock. When you change this, the climate will change to 22 degrees. The sound will be flat. All this is there. I love the red color. It feels nice. It gets Android Auto. It gets Apple CarPlay. All of this is there, of course. And you see the settings are easy to browse. Only thing is it's not the fastest in terms of response. Now here is information about driving score. Efficiency 3.7 on 5. Driving 5 on 5. Thank you so much for rating me so well. Safety 4 on 5. Are you talking about the safety of the car or are you talking about the safety of my driving? I don't know. That's the current situation right now. And all this information is given here. It's again little gimmicky. You can get into climate by pressing this button. Okay, climate is off actually, so that won't happen. And it has a lot of information. Only thing is it could have been bigger, and because I'm so used to Hyundai Kia's driver rear view monitor, I want that, because you know when you get into reverse, the rear parking camera is a bit on the smaller side. Yeah, obviously it's got multiple views as well. So right now you can get into wide view, you can get into zoom view. So that's also a cool thing. The guidelines are adaptive too. So yes, the reverse parking camera is fine, but the screen display could have been better. The resolution from the camera could have been better too. Here are actually buttons. This is for the front fog lights, this is for the rear fog lights, and this is for the drive modes. If you press this button, you get into eco drive mode. If you press this button, you get into sport drive mode. And every time you get into any drive mode, she's going to announce the same.
Sport drive mode activated. Economy drive mode activated. City drive mode activated.
So there's no dedicated button for city drive mode in this car. Again, nice premium touch. Auto dimming inside rear view mirror is finally there on the Tata Harrier. This is the light placement of the car. Lights are nice and bright actually, and there are 3 buttons here for the sunroof, which means that for every function there's an independent button. Now, of course, this is for the sunblind alone, and you see Tata claims this is the biggest sunroof in the segment, and it's got this tint also on it to reduce the heat which is coming inside the cabin. But the coolest part of the sunroof is the fact that first and foremost, this is the tilt function. If you want to tilt the roof, you press this button and there it tilt opens, and of course it opens the sunblind as well. Now this is to open the complete sunroof. So if I press this button there, the complete sunroof is going to open. The best thing about this sunroof is that it's got some real cool features for the fact that in case you turn off the car, here we go, getting out of the car. Yeah, it says door is open, which I've already showed you earlier. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut the door of the car. Now in case it rains, when the car is on, obviously it will shut the sunroof. If you put your hand, if it touches it, it has got anti-pinch, it will shut the sunroof. And if you lock the car, okay, I'm going to lock the car. Here I lock the car, and then also the sunroof shuts. So yes, it is a very advanced sunroof, not just another sunroof, but a lot of thought has gone inside making the sunroof. Now when this closes, it, you know what, it shuts the sun blind as well. The mirrors shut when you close the car, and they open when you obviously open the car as well. So you see, that's how it's done. Super cool. Let's turn on the car once again and open the sun blind. Super duper awesome. I love how Tata Motors has thought so much about the sunroof. They're the last ones to give it in the segment, but yet it is very well executed. Now this is obviously for the terrain mode, so you can just turn it around to change the terrain modes, and obviously it announces and it shows it there as well, which I've already shown you. This is for downhill assist. It's got downhill assist, it's got hill climb assist, and this is the traction control button. Yep. And Tata Motors uses this sort of a theme not only on the gear lever but also on the mats which say Harrier, so that you can't use it in any other car as well. The storage space here, and the USB charging socket has been moved ahead now. Earlier it was behind, not easy to access. Now it's come a little ahead along with an aux port as well, which just makes it easier to use. Twin cup holders here. Below the front center armrest, there is storage space. There's a 12-volt charging socket. There's a USB socket as well, and there is a cooling function too. Now the good thing is that the USB sockets in this car are the fast charging types. The handbrake is gimmicky, inspired from the interiors of an aircraft, but it's so gimmicky to use. It's just unnecessary and not needed at all. Could have just used a simple one. This wasn't needed for sure. Anyways, let's play an audio right away to listen to the audio quality of this car. Audio quality is really very nice. I'm impressed by the audio quality without a doubt, and the car feels really good. Lot of features on offer, loaded to the gill. Automatic headlights work really well at night. These are the wiper controls. It gets the automatic function as well. Lot of spray on offer. Wipers work brilliantly well, clean the windscreen in no time at all. However, there are certain features which are missing. There are no ventilated seats, there's no wireless charger, there's no driver rear view monitor, there's no front parking camera, there's no heads up display, there's no 360-degree camera, there are no front parking sensors, there's no connected car tech either, although Tata Motors is offering connected car tech in the Nexon. So yes, the Harrier could do with a lot more features. The horn is actually not that great. Attention to detail is quite impressive in the Tata Harrier. So what happened, I was on a call and I changed the drive mode to Eco, but it did not say Eco drive mode activated. After the phone call was cut, then it said Eco drive mode activated. That's very courteous of you. Meanwhile, check this out. The switch gear is illuminated. Yes, all power window switches of this car are illuminated. Unlike the case with the Korean siblings where only the driver's side is illuminated. So Tata Motors has not done cost cutting on certain factors. The Tata Harrier does not get a dedicated button to lock or unlock the doors, which is a bit disappointing because a dedicated button would have been ergonomically sound. Meanwhile, Tata Motors has actually removed the logo projection on the road, which used to come from the outside rear view mirrors and project the Harrier's logo or design on the road. Well, that was there in the pre-facelift model but has gone now. But the Harrier now feels so much more complete with better quality, more features and a massive panoramic sunroof, which is actually going to make a big difference as well. But how is it to drive with 30 more horsepower? Well, let's get driving right away. Alright, we are all set to go, which means turning on the vehicle. There it rose to life. Straight away we get into reverse gear and get out of this. The thing is, the steering is extremely heavy. Air conditioning off already. The steering is extremely heavy somehow at lower speeds because it's a hydraulic steering at the end of the day. That's the reason why it takes a lot of effort to pilot this car, and it's humongous in terms of size. This car is actually bigger than the Compass also. Yeah, that is right. It's bigger than the Compass, and now we are on the worst patch of road on earth, and you can see that this car feels very robust. It feels kind of indestructible. You can feel a bit of the stiffness also, so that's the reason why it's moving around. But it's only on such bad condition of roads that you can feel the stiffness of this car. Otherwise, the ride is absolutely sensationally brilliant. Yeah, it does move around a bit. The thing is, the steering on the center now, it doesn't have the best feel as such. And that's the reason why in the center ahead position, it just feels lacking. Specifically speaking, you know, there is some slack in the center position. Other than that, the steering is very nice and fluid. In fact, it is heavy. It weighs up brilliantly well too. This car is made for such roads. It can demolish these roads. Obviously a little bit of the stiffness can be felt inside, that firmness, but once you get going at higher speed, the ride is very flat, very nice, plenty of ground clearance on offer. But what I really love about this car is the view. It gives you such a commanding view. I'm sure you can see the hood of the car. The dashboard is so wide. I mean, the car is so wide. It gives you a big car feel in the real sense. You're not driving any small SUV. You're driving a proper SUV, at least in terms of dimensions. Okay, all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive aside, actually this platform is capable of all-wheel drive as well as electrification too, because this platform is the Omega Arc. Omega Arc means Omega architecture. Omega is a full form. I'll just display it on the screen right now. Now this is derived from the Land Rover D8 platform. Remember what I said, derived. It is not an identical platform because obviously this is having cheaper components in order to get the cost factor right. But you know what, Land Rover is also going to use this exact platform for an even entry-level Land Rover. Right now the entry-level Land Rover happens to be the Discovery Sport, which is going to be coming soon to me. Yay! Anyways, we're going to get out from here. This is actually a car made for Indian roads, although it uses components from other brands, like the engine comes from America or Italy, however you want to put it. The gearbox comes from Korea and the platform comes from UK. Okay, the derivation is from the United Kingdom. We are in city mode right now. Motor is quite a bit vocal as well, but keep that vocal aside, it's actually nice that diesel clatter has been reduced dramatically with the update to the Tata Harrier in this form of the facelift. Braking performance is nice as well. So when driving in the city, you realize that this is a big car, and obviously the heavy steering makes it a little cumbersome to pilot it in the city. However, the dimensions are really nice. You can see everything around you. I mean, the view around from this cabin is phenomenal. You can see everything and more. That is a great thing. In city drive mode, well, it redlines at around 4,000 RPM. 4,000 RPM is where it redlines, but gets vocal. Yeah, upshift at 4,000 RPM. Now please keep the manual aside because the manual has different shifts, obviously, because you have full control. It will redline all the way till 5,000 RPM, but the automatic in city mode redlines at 4,000 RPM. With eco mode, it redlines somewhere under 4,000 RPM. Actually, it redlines between 4 to 4,200 RPM, somewhere whereabouts. Meanwhile, in sport mode, it actually goes slightly higher, around almost 4,500 RPM. That is the difference. Onto the gas, performance has become super slick, super awesome, and the engine is so much more refined than before. And the refinement comes courtesy of a slew of changes. First and foremost, there's more insulation. Secondly, they have also worked on the engine, of course. It produces more power. It complies with BS6 emission norms as well. And thirdly, the engine mounts are now softer, which means that vibrations have been curtailed. It doesn't have the diesel clatter. It kind of sounds sporty, but to me, everything sounds sporty. Any noise is actually pleasure to the ears. Let's get into eco mode.
Economy drive mode activated.
Thank you, Auntie, for telling me. I can immediately feel that there is lesser power and torque on offer, and that performance dulls a little bit, of course, but also improves the fuel efficiency of this car, which is officially rated very poorly actually. In the real world, this car is going to return single digit numbers, the automatic at least. The manual will stretch it to double digits, just about 10 to 11 kilometers per liter in the city, going up to 12 to 13 kilometers per liter in the city for the manual. For the automatic, you can expect somewhere around 8 to 9 kilometers per liter in the city, going upwards to almost 11 to 12 kilometers per liter out on the highway, again depending purely on your driving style. It's no fun driving in eco mode unless and until you just want to conserve fuel. Do not get into that mode. What I can do is I can slot the gear lever left here.
Sport drive mode activated.
So I've activated manual control on the gearbox, and it automatically activates sport drive mode as well. So 3 drive modes, 3 terrain modes as well. Normal terrain mode, with which you can work into all these 3 drive modes, and there is wet mode and there is rough mode as well. All of this doesn't really make it very capable off the road. It tinkers with the ESP, and with that tinkering, what it does is it ensures that you don't get bogged down. So you can do mild off-roading, but not what a 4-wheel drive car can do. Now in sport mode, it immediately wakes up and the performance is stellar. It will not downshift unless and until I decide to do so. But you know what's the problem? Here, I want to go lower gear. It says transmission warning, drive control shift denied. It's denied me a downshift. That is really very rude, the way it actually projects it. Never mind here. Okay, in order to get into second, we have to lower our speed. Here we are into second, and whack open the throttle. Shifts actually happen quite fast, which is a good thing. But the bad thing is that what's happening actually with the shifts and what is displaying in the gear position indicator just do not match. So let's upshift. Here I've upshifted. Okay, and now it's showing 4, now it's showing 5. So there's a massive lag between the gearbox and the gear position indicator. They are not in sync at all. They just do not work seamlessly. There is that massive lag. Now this gearbox obviously is a 6-speed torque converter unit which comes from the Hyundai Tucson. Hyundai is so smart, they gave Tata the 6-speed torque converter automatic, and then they put an 8-speed torque converter automatic in their Tucson. Well, that's kind of funny. Oh my god, that was a Yamaha R1. Alright, let's turn off traction control and look at this.
City drive mode activated.
As soon as you turn off traction control, it automatically gets you out of sport mode. It will not activate sport mode unless and until traction control is on, which is a big bummer actually.
Sport drive mode activated.
Left foot on the brake, right foot on the accelerator, revving the motor. The gear shifts are quite seamless and the refinement levels are also great, but at idle there's some amount of vibrations which can be felt on the steering wheel, can be felt a little bit on the gear lever as well. So yes, refinement has improved, but still there's scope of improvement. The only major issue I find with this car is that if you turn off traction control, it puts you in city mode. Why? I want traction control off and I want to be in sport mode, but no, it does not let you do that. So if you're in sport mode, even if you put the gear lever on the left for manual control, which automatically puts it into sport mode, it just does not work. It will immediately turn it into city mode whenever you turn off the traction control system. That is a big bummer. Onto the gas, yeah, it is quite aggressive in the sense with the shifts, both down and up shifts. I mean, it does it in good time and it's very seamless. The power delivery is very nice. This is a 2000cc multi-jet 2 diesel engine which is also shared with the Jeep Compass as well as the MG Hector with a similar state of tune now, which is 170 PS of power, around 167 horsepower at 3750 RPM, and a nice 350 Newton meters of torque, which is identical to what it was earlier between 1700 to 2500 RPM. Now this is very much similar to what we see with its other rivals, like of course the Hector as well as the Compass. The automatic of course dulls the performance because it's obviously, I mean, it is actually quite aggressive with shifts. It will give you a downshift when you need it, but it is not that slick in terms of speed of gear shifts which you can do manually, and that's the reason why the manual is obviously faster by almost half a second, not really half a second, 0.3 of a second. It's faster from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour, and with the 30 horsepower bump this car has got, it feels so much quicker, it feels so much more enthusiastic, and it just feels so much more eager, because of which it is actually faster than the older car by almost 1 second when you compare the manuals. The old car did not have an automatic gearbox, so obviously manual is my pick any day. But that said, the convenience of an automatic is stellar because overall refinement, performance, everything is very nice. It obviously produces 170 PS of power in sport mode, which we are driving in right now. But when you go for the lower modes, power obviously decreases. I believe it must be producing around 140 horsepower in eco mode. Meanwhile, in normal mode, it must be producing around 155 horsepower. Torque output was earlier also 350 Newton meters, now also is 350 Newton meters. So there is no difference in that regard. The updated horsepower doesn't come courtesy of any hardware changes to this car. In fact, the engine remains the same. Only thing is the tuning has been changed now, and it complies with BS6 emission norms. For that, obviously I showed you the AdBlue tank, which is 15 liters in size. It actually adds AdBlue in the exhaust so that it complies with BS6 emission norms by reducing the emissions of the car. However, there is a problem that AdBlue tank will last for around 7,500 to 10,000 kilometers depending on your driving style, which will obviously be refilled at every service. But if you miss a service now and the AdBlue tank is over, the car will refuse to crank up. So if I'm driving right now and the AdBlue is over, it will continue till the time I don't stop the car. Once I stop the car, it is not going to crank up unless and until I actually fill AdBlue in it, because then obviously it will not be complying with BS6 emission norms. See, the motor is quite loud in the higher end of the rev range. The other issue is that there is low end lag. This is a big engine, so below 2000 RPM it's not really very enthusiastic. Obviously this automatic gearbox does a great job of masking that turbo lag to a certain extent, but there is lag lower down, and that lag makes it a little difficult in the city. But out on the highway this car shines with a nice punchy mid-range. Performance has become more linear. Earlier it was not as linear, but because of BS6 emissions, I mean, the tuning change for BS6 has just made it so much more linear. But let's get to the best thing about this car, which is the handling characteristics. it rides absolutely beautifully, very flat, very nice, very composed. Body roll is supremely well contained, and the handling of this car is something which I would say is surreal, all thanks to the Omega R. The platform of this car is absolutely sensational. The Land Rover genes come into play when you come around the corner, and the ride and handling balance truly show where Land Rover has come into play. Now, obviously, certain things are different because the suspension, the front suspension actually, and the chassis are actually similar with little bit difference in terms of what are the materials used. But the rear suspension is not the same as a Land Rover. You know why? Because in order to cut costs, they have not gone for a multi-link independent suspension, which is the case with Land Rovers. Instead, it uses a torsion beam, which is more cost effective. However, the subframe is also not the same in order to accommodate this engine. But the good news is this D8 platform is very flexible. Oh, we just changed the theme right now to blue. Anyways, this platform is future ready, which means that it can accommodate an electric powertrain. It can also accommodate hybrid. And that's not all. It can also accommodate all-wheel drive. Right now, power is channeled to the front wheels with 14 ESP related functions. Actually, ESP is there and it has got 14 other functions. Like, it also does brake cleaning, wiping and all that. So when the brakes are wet, they actually dry. It has got off-road ABS, hill descent control, hill ascent control, cornering stability control. It's also got, okay, look at this. Taking a U-turn is actually not much of an effort thanks to the automatic gearbox, but yeah, the steering is on the heavier side. Does weigh up decently well. So I was telling you, it has also got rollover mitigation. So ABS, EBD, all of those things have been put into one of the 14 other associated functions, features of ESP. Electronic stability control works really well, but honestly, you don't need it in a front wheel drive car. This car does weigh up quite a bit in terms of weight. It is a heavy car, but it doesn't feel its weight. It feels light and agile. The best thing I like about the Tata Harrier is that if you remove the Tata logo from here now, you might get a little bit feel that you're driving a Land Rover, because it just feels so rugged. It just feels so good in terms of the way it drives. Steering is quite responsive at higher speeds. Yeah, I like the fact that this motor is almost so okay. I can see the rain is coming from there and it's going to hit us real hard. It's going to be super duper heavy in terms of rain. But you know what? The car is super stable at high speed. There's good amount of grip on offer as well. And whatever changes have been done have made this car so much better in multiple ways. But let me tell you one thing, they have not changed the suspension of the car, because if it ain't broke, why fix it? The suspension is fab. It has always been fab. This car suspension has been fab since day one. Little bit firmness, stiffness is there, which you can feel, but that's actually a good thing because it lends it real good high speed stability too. So very stable, very composed. And Neha, your Skoda Superb is just getting towed. I'm so sorry to hear about that. Anyways, we're having a lot of rain up front. Oh my god, there I told you, rain is there. I think I should join the weather department. Enough of vlogs. Faisal weather report is coming your way. I can feel a lot of noise coming from outside to the inside. So yes, it could have been a little bit more refined in terms of the road noise factor, but then in Land Rovers also I can hear a lot of road noise. So that is something which is common to this platform probably. It's not the most silent of platforms, but certainly it is so well engineered that you have a ton of fun driving this car. I'm driving in manual mode. It will not downshift unless and until I drop the RPM to a limit, but it will upshift. That's kind of weird. If you're not going to hold on to a gear, then maybe you should downshift also when I tap the accelerator pedal multiple times, but it does not do that. Feel the robustness of the car. It just feels so robust. That is the beauty of this car. Okay, it doesn't have all-wheel drive. It is a front-wheel drive car, yet it feels phenomenally robust. It actually gives you the SUV feel. You sit high up, you have a good view of what's around, and it has that indestructible nature in it, which is so good and satisfying as well. Anyways, braking performance is good actually. It could have been better. Pedal feel is something I'm not really happy about because the play for the pedal is just too much, and that's the reason when I got into a T-Roc after driving this immediately, I was like, why is the brake feeling so grabby? Because I got used to it. Anyways, rear disc should have been offered. Here we are. I put into sport drive mode. Got out of Triptronic function, left foot on the brake, right foot on the accelerator, cannot turn off traction control disappointingly, and doesn't rev. Off we go. That's quite a vocal engine in the top end. You know what's the best thing about this car? Rather the automatic gearbox. If you're not driving it fast, if you're driving in the city, very relaxed, you don't have to worry about anything because you will not even realize when the gear shifts happen. The gear shifts happen so seamlessly, so silently. Okay, on part throttle, this gearbox engine combination works beautifully well, and obviously a lot of effort has gone to mate this Hyundai gearbox to an Italian Fiat engine on a Land Rover based platform derivative D8 in an Indian car. So that's like a mix of a lot of things. So you are actually getting a truly global car in multiple ways. Now Tata Motors has gone bonkers by offering 16 variants of this car. And just remember one thing, there's only one engine on offer, which is the diesel. Yet it's got 16 freaking variants. How does that work? Simple. Okay, firstly, they have just too many color options. So for dual tone as well as the dark edition, there are 8 variants combined. But the additional cost is around 10 to 12,000 rupees. So that's not much. That is actually a good thing. Okay. Secondly, the variants are mix of manual and automatic. There are actually 7 variants for the automatic, and there are 5 trim levels as well. Now again, color combination, all those you mix and all, obviously you get a vast variety of things. I love to put this car around the corner. Whenever I have driven this car, I have absolutely had a massive smile on the face, just because of the level of composure, the way it's able to corner, the grip levels, the feel, that is just surreal. Now the range actually starts at 16.79 lakhs for the base manual diesel variant and goes all the way to 24.6 lakhs for the top end dark edition. This particular car we are driving is not the top end dark edition. It is the top end, it is the XMA, which is the top variant in terms of trim levels, and is the automatic, of course. 24.5 lakhs on road Mumbai. Lot of money indeed. Cost dramatically more than the Creta and the Seltos. But remember one thing, the Creta and the Seltos are like a segment lower, half a segment lower at least, but they get more features which are missing in this car, which I've already spoken about earlier. So yeah, it kind of comes across as slightly overpriced when you compare it to those cars. Those cars are obviously smaller in size, so that comparison is not valid. But when you compare to the Jeep Compass, you realize that the gearbox is better than the Jeep Compass. The engine is the same. The Compass obviously has better dynamics. It rides better, it handles better. But the Harrier in front of the Compass offers stellar value for money, and that is something which makes the Harrier shine out on top by offering more car per car, a Tata philosophy from back in the days. Anyways, braking performance, absolutely no issue. Only thing is that pedal feel is some sort of a problem. Meanwhile, they should have offered rear discs for sure at this price point. Left foot on the brake, right foot on the accelerator. How confident is Tata Motors about this car? Well, it seems they're very confident. This car actually comes with 2 years, 1 lakh kilometer warranty, and you can pay 25,920 rupees more within 90 days of the purchase of your Harrier to extend the warranty to 5 years, unlimited kilometers. That is absolutely stunning warranty. That is the confidence Tata Motors has on its products. However, that obviously does not cover the suspension and the clutch, because they are variable parts. Those parts are which wear and tear according to your usage. So obviously that warranty is 50,000 kilometers for those parts, the clutch and the suspension. But that seems fine considering that they're covering everything else, like the infotainment system, the various other aspects, the engine. The engine is a gem. Fiat has done a great job, like always the case. Only thing that turbo lag is there, which is like the silence before the storm. Unfortunately, that silence is dulled down. The storm has kind of vanished, and all this has happened purely because of the fact that BS6 has mandated things to become smoother. You just do not, fly like you used to earlier, because then you're emitting a lot more, and the compromise with BS6 has kind of made me sad as well. But put that aside, the Tata Harrier is an absolutely stunning car. This is Indian engineering at its very best. The robustness, the feel of the car. And Neha, we could have exited from here as well. Why you kept doing unglis like that?
Arey, wait, go from there. It's out.
Oh my god.
I thought we were supposed to take U-turn. Not like last time where we got Atco 5.
I get a workout when moving the steering wheel, because the steering wheel is on the heavier side. This dude has done a proper U-turn, and imagine his steering would be 4 times, 5 times, like even more.
Tata
I know, Tata hi hogi na. Off we go. See, ESP is having your back at all given moments. The traction control button is flickering, but I truly believe, where Tata Motors hasn't done things right is just relying too much on the platform of this car. Yeah, we had to actually go left. Now stop banging your head like that. What happened was Tata Motors was heavily relying on the platform to make this car sell. That's why the car did not have as many features. We can still take an exit if you want me to take an exit.
U-turn.
U-turn?
Yeah.
Wait, this? Okay.
Yeah.
So you are like totally testing the off-road ability of the car today, are you?
Yes.
Oh my god, look at the road, but no problem in this car at all, because it feels at home. Look at the composure. Tell me something, can a Hyundai Creta do this? Yeah, it can probably. You don't feel fluid with it because you kind of feel like car looks soft. This car does not look soft. Placebo effect is massive. You realize this car looks the part, feels very composed, feels very SUV, and can do all that and more. And then the Land Rover pedigree makes you feel that, okay, what can possibly go wrong? Where are we going, left or right?
I don't know.
What are you doing? Are you testing the car or something? You're like all over the place. Should I go down?
No,
Should I take a
no.
U-turn? Should we get out of here? Where are we going? What are we doing? Please tell me quickly.
Get out from here right now.
From here or we should U-turn?
You take a U-turn.
Okay, then Neha's just trying to test how good the car is. Yeah, it just manages there. Not a problem at all. So even if I up the pace, no problem. It just feels so freaking indestructible. Neha's telling me to stop thinking that she'll fall down.
You never know.
The Tata Altroz, which was launched recently, has already been NCAP tested. So Tata Motors needs to push that and get the rating for this car because I believe it's going to be a safe car. The platform is good, everything good, the quality of the car, the body, everything feels so robust. And I am not exaggerating the... What happened?
Dude, there's no U-turn.
Today we are lost for sure. We're just taking U-turn. कितने मिनट का व्लॉग हुआ है?
29.
20. आधे घंटे से गाड़ी चला के मैं बकबक कर रहा हूँ. Are you crazy? पहले बोलने का था ना खत्म करते हैं व्लॉग.
But मजा आ रहा है ना तुम्हें भी. You're enjoying the car.
That is when the traction control is important. Only thing is that I'm trying to cut power. Otherwise, it's just going to keep screeching. This car can become so much better. They should offer an all-wheel drive version at least as an option. I know not many people buy an all-wheel drive, but still, if they offer one, I know I saw that U-turn. I'm like, why are you not taking that U-turn? Why are you saying कि no चलो.
वो सबवे में से I would like हम properly लेंगे, तरीके से लेंगे.
देखो एक बात बताऊं.
उस दिन तो नहीं था जब हम
सैटरडे को सबवे में ट्यूना फिश है ना, वो उस पे मिलता है. क्या बोलते हैं? सब ऑफ द डेज ट्यूना फिश ऑन सैटरडे.
जब देखो तो oh my god.
That's a Bolero, na? Amazing, na? The Bolero looks.
No, this car Tata feels so good.
Tata feels so good, or you looking at the dust and be like, oh my god. I have never ever felt so fluid while driving a car without even worrying about the bad roads. Even in a Land Rover, you're like worried. You know the car is capable, you're like, oh my god, it's an expensive car, what if something breaks or not? But in this car, you're not worried because you know it's a Tata. It is made for our roads. It just feels so fluid, so nice, so beautiful, and I absolutely love the Tata Harrier. However, I do feel that it is priced on the expensive side because of the lack of features. अब बोलना नहीं, नीचे से जाना है.
नहीं.
हाँ. I think for this price, Tata Motors should have offered more features. Like connected cars should have been given because almost every brand is doing it, and Tata Motors itself is doing it in the Nexon Ira. They're doing it in the Nexon EV also has it. I think connected car tech. Tata Harrier is a brilliant car, but I don't know if people are willing to pay 24.5 lakhs on road Mumbai for this particular variant of the car. Now, this costs 1.5 lakhs more, the automatic, compared to the manual. I would pick the manual any day. I know the clutch is not the best, the gearbox is not the slickest in terms of shift. They've worked on that. But the mirrors I'm not really happy with. They have redesigned the mirrors for more aerodynamics, and I kind of feel they don't extend all the way up as much as they should be extending, and that kind of hinders my visibility behind. That's it, manual mode, and off we go. This car really pulls hard. It really pulls nice and fast. So the engine gets a big thumbs up. The refinement levels are also good. It gets noisy when you push it hard and fast. The gearbox also gets a big thumbs up from my side. And everything in this car gets a big thumbs up other than the small things which I had mentioned earlier, which are not that best. And ergonomically too, it could have been slightly better. And on that discovery, it's time to end. Literally discovery because of the platform. It's time to end. If you like this vlog, you know what you have to do. Give it a thumbs up. That's the like button. Funny.
Yeah.
Another cool feature of the Tata Harrier is that there is a button here on the key. You press that button, the lights turn on. That's just to guide you when you're actually approaching the car, and it looks super cool. You see there's a flap here below. I think that is for aerodynamic purpose. The tires seem wide enough, although they should have been bigger in terms of size. And that is the end of this longish vlog of the Tata Harrier.